Would agree with that. I think he's got basically best of all three worlds. I haven't played a player like him ever.
They finally said it out loud. Tennis players across the tour have reached one brutal verdict. Jannik Sinner is simply too good for this final. Djokovic delivered the first confession on Friday night. Crushed 6-4, 6-4, 6-4. The 24-time champion admitted Sinner played a level or more above him. Then Zverev made it worse. Asked about Sunday's opponent, the German begged for a junior instead. The locker room is convinced Sinner can end this easily. History backs them. 9 straight defeats haunt Zverev. 14 consecutive sets lost. Nobody has managed to beat the Italian in this rivalry since 2023. So the verdict looks final, except something doesn't add up. Why does the world number one's camp seem nervous? And why did Sinner carefully praise Zverev's aggression this week? Here's what they're hiding. Sinner hasn't lifted a Grand Slam trophy in a full year. Paris watched him collapse from 2 sets up against the world number 56. Round 1 here nearly buried him across 5 sets. The armor has cracks, and Zverev just silenced a decade of ridicule at Roland Garros. Subscribe right now for the stories tennis media buries, because this final hides a twist nobody predicted. The twist starts with a number nobody talks about. 14 career meetings sit between Jannik Sinner and Alexander Zverev, and not one of them was ever played on grass. Read that again. Every statistic fueling the locker room's verdict was recorded on hard courts and clay. The 9-match losing streak, the 14 consecutive sets, the brutal score lines that made pundits call Sinner his kryptonite, all of it belongs to surfaces that reward long rallies and relentless baseline grinding. Sunday tears that history up. Center court's lawn is faster, lower, and far less forgiving, and it hands an enormous weapon to the tallest man in the final. Zverev stands 6 feet 6 inches tall, and his serve touched 139 miles per hour during the semifinal. Sinner understands exactly what that means. Speaking after his own semifinal, the world number 1 predicted fewer exchanges and less rhythm, then acknowledged that warm conditions would favor a big server. He was not describing himself. Temperatures in London are expected to climb into the mid-80s on Sunday, drying the turf and speeding up every delivery. A rivalry defined by Sinner's control could suddenly hinge on 10 or 12 loose points scattered across tiebreaks. The German has spent his entire career waiting for a battlefield like this one. Before anyone crowns the underdog, though, honesty demands a correction. Even this twist bends toward the Italian. Sinner owns a career grass record of 35 wins against 10 defeats, a winning percentage close to 78. Zverev sits at 54 wins and 24 losses, barely 69%. The defending champion lifted this exact trophy 12 months ago. His opponent had never even reached a quarterfinal at the All England Club before this fortnight. New surface, same problem. That gap explains why the tour's conclusion feels less like disrespect and more like arithmetic. Yet arithmetic never accounts for transformation, and Zverev arrives in London as a fundamentally different competitor. 5 weeks ago in Paris, the 29-year-old finally destroyed the label that had tortured him for a decade. 4 previous Grand Slam finals had ended in heartbreak. Then came Roland Garros, where a depleted draw opened up and Zverev survived a 5-set war against Italy's Flavio Cobolli to claim his maiden major. The dam broke. Freedom replaced fear almost overnight, and the results at Wimbledon prove it. He cut through Alexander Blocks, Valentin Royer, Marcos Giron, and Jiri Lehecka before running into Taylor Fritz in the quarterfinals. Fritz had beaten him 7 consecutive times. Zverev dismantled the American 6-4, 6-4, 6-2, although a knee issue admittedly hampered Fritz that afternoon. The semi-final brought Arthur Ferry, a British wildcard ranked 114 in the world who grew up 5 minutes from the grounds and carried the entire stadium on his shoulders. Zverev silenced center court with a 7-6, 6-2, 6-4 masterclass, taking the opening tiebreak 7 points to 0. His serving numbers that day bordered on absurd. He landed 72% of first deliveries, won 77% of those points, and captured a staggering 82% behind his second serve while striking 44 winners. Afterward, he praised the fairness of a crowd that had desperately wanted him to lose, estimating that virtually the whole stadium backed his opponent. Grace under hostility signals a settled mind. The historical stakes explain his hunger. Zverev is now the first German man to reach a Wimbledon final since Boris Becker lost to Pete Sampras in 1995, and the last of his countrymen to actually win it was Michael Stick back in 1991. Becker himself tweeted congratulations in German the moment the semi-final ended. Victory on Sunday would carve Zverev's name into two exclusive lists at once. The Channel Slam, winning Roland Garros and Wimbledon in the same summer, has been achieved by only 6 men in the Open era: Rod Laver, Bjorn Borg, Rafael Nadal, Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, and Carlos Alcaraz. Beyond that, no man since 1968 has ever followed his maiden major by winning the very next one. Zverev could accomplish both feats in a single afternoon. Regardless of the result, Monday's rankings will list him as world number 2, overtaking the injured Alcaraz, whose ongoing wrist problem has kept him out of the past 2 majors. His mentality reflects the moment. He insists he remains focused and hungry, wanting to continue winning at the highest level, and he has openly declared that he must trust himself and believe victory is possible. Belief, however, has never been his problem against most opponents. Sinner is not most opponents. Still, the champion's own year gives the German genuine hope. Strip away Friday's brilliance and the cracks become visible. Sinner has not lifted a Grand Slam trophy since his title here 12 months ago, an eternity by his standards. January brought a 5-set semi-final defeat to Djokovic at the Australian Open, the match that briefly convinced the world the old guard still had answers. Sinner responded with the most dominant stretch of his career, rattling off 30 consecutive victories and sweeping 5 straight Masters 1,000 titles through the spring. Then Paris happened. Leading by 2 sets against Juan Manuel Cerundolo, the world number 56, and Sinner unraveled completely and crashed out in the second round. The collapse ended his streak, handed Zverev the open draw that produced his breakthrough, and raised uncomfortable questions about the Italian's durability at the majors. Those questions followed him to London. His opening match against Miomir Kekmanovic stretched to 5 uncomfortable sets, forcing him to recover from a 2-1 deficit before escaping. For a few days, the whispers grew louder. Perhaps the aura had faded. Perhaps the world number 1 was vulnerable. Friday night incinerated that theory. What Sinner produced against Djokovic ranks among the finest performances of his career, and the numbers read like fiction. He won 88% of points behind his first serve, dropping just 4 service points across the entire opening set. 16 aces flew past the greatest returner the sport has ever known. Djokovic manufactured exactly 1 break point in 2 hours and 20 minutes, and Sinner erased it with a 201 km/h ace. The Italian finished with 40 winners against a mere 15 unforced errors while converting 17 of his 20 approaches to the net. A fatigued Djokovic, admittedly still recovering from the longest quarterfinal in Wimbledon history, a 5-hour and 15-minute epic against Felix Auger-Aliassime, could offer nothing in response. His post-match press conference became the confession that launched 1,000 headlines. He described the defeat as a good old blowout and admitted there was nothing he could do. Then came the deeper analysis, and this is where the title of this video earns its weight. Djokovic explained that Sinner's first serve simply cannot be attacked anymore. He praised its unpredictability, its variety, its disguise, and noted the technical changes that transformed the delivery into a genuine weapon over recent seasons. He called his conqueror solid from every corner of the court. A 24-time major champion does not hand out assessments like that casually. When the man who spent 2 decades solving every serve in tennis declares one unsolvable, the locker room listens. Zverev's private ledger against Sinner makes the warning even darker. The overall head-to-head reads 10-4 in the Italian's favor, but the trajectory tells the crueler story. Zverev actually won 4 of their first 5 meetings years ago, back when Sinner was the raw teenager and the German was the established star. Since the start of 2024, Sinner has won every single encounter. The last Zverev victory dates to the 2023 US Open. Across their most recent 6 matches, Sinner has not dropped a set, and half of those 12 sets ended 6-2 or worse. This season alone, the Italian has beaten him 4 times, in the semifinals at Indian Wells, Miami, and Monte Carlo, then most brutally in the Madrid final this May, a 6-1, 6-2 demolition that lasted barely an hour. Their lone previous Grand Slam final at the 2025 Australian Open ended in straight sets for Sinner as well. Analytics platforms deepen the gloom for German fans. Sinner currently leads the entire tour in service hold percentage at 94.2, and tracking data over the past year rates his forehand, backhand, and return all comfortably above Zverev's equivalents. The one department where Zverev historically held an advantage, raw serving, has quietly flipped. Understand all of that, and the tour's blunt verdict stops sounding arrogant. Players admit Sinner wins these matchups easily because for 2 full years he has done precisely that, on every surface offered, without dropping so much as a set. Sinner himself refuses to say it aloud, and his caution this week is telling. He acknowledged watching Zverev's semi-final and described the German as very aggressive, relaxed, and full of confidence. He pointed directly at Roland Garros as the source of that belief, conceding that whatever happened between them in the past no longer guarantees anything. Champions rarely volunteer respect unless they mean it. His camp knows the danger hiding in a fast court final. One hot serving stretch from Zverev forces tiebreaks, and tiebreaks compress the margin between the best player alive and everyone else. The German has already banked one 7-point shootout this fortnight without conceding a single point in it. Should he steal an early set on Sunday, the psychological weight of 9 straight defeats begins pressing on the other side of the net for the first time. Sinner would suddenly face the one scenario this rivalry has never produced, a Zverev with nothing to fear and a scoreboard lead. The realistic path for the underdog is narrow but visible. He must serve above 70%, shorten points ruthlessly, attack the Sinner second serve before rallies develop, and accept that break chances may arrive once per set at most. Djokovic's scouting report suggested chipping and blocking returns just to stay alive in points. Zverev possesses the tools, particularly a backhand widely considered among the cleanest in tennis and the experience of 25 tour titles. What he has never possessed against this specific opponent is a way to win the crucial moments, and Sinner's semi-final suggested those moments now belong to him more than ever. The broader context raises the ceiling on Sunday's meaning too. Sinner and Alcaraz have shared 10 of the past 11 major titles between them, and Zverev's Paris triumph stands as the lone interruption. A second consecutive win for the German would transform a duopoly into a genuine 3-man era. A Sinner victory instead delivers his 5th major before his 25th birthday, a successful title defense, and the emphatic answer to a season of doubts, all sealed against the man ranked directly beneath him. Sunday, then, offers 2 stories racing toward one trophy. The champion seeks restoration. The challenger seeks the greatest 5-week run this sport has witnessed in decades. Not before 4 p.m. London time, the 2 best-ranked players in the world walk onto center court, and either the most lopsided rivalry in modern tennis extends to 10 straight, exactly as the locker room predicts, or Alexander Zverev detonates the narrative and completes a redemption arc worthy of cinema. The players have already told you their answer. Djokovic told you with his confession. The history books are waiting to find out if all of them are wrong. So here is where you come in. Drop your prediction in the comments right now. Sinner in straight sets or the Zverev shock of the decade. Because this community reads every single take and the boldest calls get pinned. Smash the like button if this breakdown gave you angles the mainstream coverage never will, and subscribe with notifications on. Since the moment this final ends, we are going live with the full autopsy, the numbers, the fallout, and the story behind the story. Tennis is entering its most dramatic chapter in years. Make sure you watch it unfold from the front row with us.